Good morning, 8th grade. How is everybody this morning? A little tired? Yeah, I bet. I bet trick-or-treating was a long night last night. Well, I'm sure you guys got lots of candy and had lots of fun, but unfortunately, now we're back in school. We have to focus again. I know it's hard. But, okay, we're going to continue our discussion on the elements and principles of design. So, yesterday, we started making our portfolios. We're going to put all of our work in. So you had made your grid so far, and you put elements and principles on top. So what this is for, just to remind you, and this is just so you have your own poster on the front of your portfolio. So anytime you are kind of lost or a little confused on what maybe an element or a principle is, you can just look onto your own sheet and look at your own examples. So you can use mine. If you like how mine is, you can use my examples. But I would really like you to try to think of your own to help you out. So don't worry about making this perfect. This is just for you. You are only going to be graded on if you did it, if you tried, and if it makes sense to you. Because once we are done with everything, I'm going to go around and ask you questions about it. So ask you questions about color and value and things like that, and why you chose to do each one, okay? So today we're probably just going to get the elements done, and that's okay. And tomorrow we'll get the principles. Even though I said this is just for you and it's not, doesn't have to be beautiful, I still want this to be done well so you can use it, okay? So we're going to spend a lot of time on it. So we're going to start with our line. So we are going to draw our words. So this helps with drawing and spelling, okay? And we're going to talk about each one a little bit, not too much, a little bit. Then when I go around and talk to you individually while you're finishing your elements, then we can go in a little bit more detail in our little breakout groups, okay? So we're going to talk about line. So line has one point and then another point, and they never touch, right? So line never touches. So whenever we are drawing our word line, we are going to just use line. So I'm going to do the first two letters with all of you together in a group. And then once we finish the two words, the two letters, you are going to finish the word on your own, and you're going to do a little picture that makes sense to you, okay? So we're going to do L and an I. And you're going to finish your N and your E on your own, okay? This one isn't too bad. And then you're going to do examples of line. So you remember, line can be thin or thick. It can be vertical or diagonal. So it can be long ways or tall ways. It can be zigzagged. It can be dashed. It can be, like a spiral. Just as long as the two ends don't touch, okay? So just some examples when I'm going around, and we're going to make sure we do this in pencil first, right? I'm using marker just so you guys can see it, but let's try to do this in pencil first. And remember, since none of these words are not proper nouns, so we are only going to use lowercase letters, right? Okay, so now we're going to go on to shape. So shape is a continuation of line, if we're going to think of it that way. So we start with, let's say our line starts right here, and we go all the way around our shape, and then our line ends again. So a shape is a closed line. So that's when the 2 points meet, okay? So when we're drawing our word shape, we are going to start at one point and then go all the way around and at the other point. So we're going to use bubble letters in a sense. So I'm sure most of you have used bubble letters or seen them. You can look at mine for some visual if you need some help with that. Or if you need additional help, just hold off, and whenever I'm coming around and circulating, I will definitely help, okay? So we're going to do our S and our H together. Okay, so you can color those in if you would like. You can keep them blank. It doesn't matter. And then we are going, when we draw our little designs, I want you to do both an organic and a geometric shape. So when we say organic, that means something like the letters. Letters and bubble letters are organic because there's not straight lines, they don't have angles that you learned about in math class, I think. If not, we can touch back on this, okay? But when we're talking about organic shape, that means something that's kind of found in nature, okay? So something like, so that would be an organic shape. It has no rhyme or reason. It just is, okay? And then, but it has, remember, the lines always touch. But whenever we're doing an geometric shape, that would be something you would see maybe in math. If you're taking geometry, I know some of you guys might be taking geometry now or maybe next year. But when we're doing geometric shapes, they're going to be lines, straight lines, and angles. So maybe a square or a rectangle or a triangle. Okay, so I want you to just do one of each. Okay, that's okay, just one of each. And then whenever I go around, I'm going to ask you which is which, okay? We're going to move on to form. So form is very much like shape, but form is a three-dimensional shape, a shape that looks like it's going back into space, okay? So you see in my example here how we have the F, how the first part is blue and then right behind it is yellow. So how we get that effect is that we draw our shape first. So we're going to draw our bubble letter F. Okay, and then we're going to draw another bubble letter F right behind it, but make sure it's really, really light. So this is why we're using pencil. I know I'm using pen, but make sure you draw it really, really light so then you can erase, okay? Okay, and then where your shapes overlap, you're going to erase, okay? Make sure you erase that. And then in my example, you see how the lines are connected wherever the front and the back shape would meet. So we're just going to connect. And then I want you to make your shape in front a different color than your shape in back. So you can see the front and then the side of your form, okay? And now we're going to go and do our O. Okay? So once again, you're going to erase where they overlapped inside, okay? So since mine's in pen, I didn't want to overlap it because I can't erase it. So we're going to erase that. And then when we do our form, you can do an organic or a geometric shape for your form, okay? So just one of each, or one or the other, it doesn't matter which one. So I'm just gonna, for my example here, I'm going to do a geometric shape. So I'm gonna do a square. Okay, so we have our square, and then I'm going to do a square behind it. And then connect the lines. Okay, so that is our form. And much like your letters, I want you to make the front shape and the back shape a different color so you can see how the form is. You can see the front and the side of your form, okay? So now we're going to move on to color. So color's fun. Color is something we are all familiar with because our world is in color. Everything we have, everything we see, everything around us is in color. So, but colors have different meanings. We can have, I know you've learned about cool colors and warm colors. So cool colors would be your blues, your greens, and your warm colors would be your reds and your yellows. And then anything in between there. And then you have complementary colors. So the complementary color to green would be, excellent, yes, red, because they're on opposite ends of the color wheel, very much like yellow and purple and blue and orange, okay? So you can use you can use those colors. You can use colors that can convey an emotion. So blue can mean sad, and yellow can mean happy. So whatever you choose, whatever colors you choose to use, whenever I come around, I just need you to justify why you decided to use that color, okay? So once again, we're going to do our bubble letters. We're going to do our two letters together, our C and our O. Okay, and I want you to do your L, your O, and your R together, or alone, okay, by yourself. But you know, I want you to color in each letter of the word color with a color that you chose for a reason, okay? And then for your example, you can do a little picture. You can just color the whole thing in one color. You had to have a reason behind it, though. You can use multiple colors, but once again, whenever I come around, there has to be a rhyme or a reason to why you chose that color, okay? So now we're going to move on to texture. Texture is a big word. Texture is funny because texture is the way something feels, right? Like the texture of my scarf is soft, or the texture of let's see, you know, this desk is smooth. Or for my example here, I used prickly. The texture of this cactus texture is prickly. So obviously in a drawing, you can't feel a texture. But whenever you're working with three-dimensional forms and making stuff on the outside of those forms, you can use texture. But whenever you're drawing, you can draw texture. You can make something look like how it feels. So if you had a prickly cactus, it would look prickly. Or for this example of this person or this figure, it looks like cracked stone or some type of pavement or walkway, okay? So we're going to do our first two letters together again, and then you're going to do the last on your own, okay? Okay, so we have our first two letters, and then I'm just going to use prickly again. So I'm going to make little pricklies all over it, okay? Now we could spend a lot of time forming each one of these pricklies to look very three-dimensional, but for these purposes, just as long as you can tell me what texture you were trying to show, that's enough, okay? So, and then for your little picture here, you can draw the same texture, or you can do a different texture, whatever you think would help you remember texture, okay? So now we're going to go on to space. So when we're talking about space, we are talking about the area around something, okay? So for my example here, we use bubble letters again, and we're talking about the space around the word space. So we're going to do our bubble letters, and we are going to color in the surrounding area around the word space, okay? So we're going to do the first two letters together, our S and our P. Okay, and you're going to finish that word. And then you're going to take a color. You can use a pencil. It doesn't, just as long as you color in or shade in the back area behind your word space, okay? And then for your example, you can use just any type of shape if you want, or any type of object. So for me, I'm just going to use a square. And you have to decide what kind of space you want around your object. So if you want your space to be really busy, so when I say it's busy, that means it's full of a lot of stuff. So I'm just going to use different types of line. Now that would be busy because there was a lot of stuff going on, right? So if we kept our space with nothing in it, that will be called negative space. So we're going to learn about negative space more in this class, so don't worry. But negative space is just as important as your positive space. So that would be whatever your object is, okay? So if you're going to do negative space, just make sure you do color in your object, okay? And then whenever I come around and ask you, at least if you have an understanding of what you're trying to say, if you're saying, I want this to be negative space, then that will be okay, okay? So now we're going to move on to our last element, which is value, okay? So with value, it's the darkness or the lightness of something. So in 6th grade, you guys did a value scale. I know some of you were not here in 6th grade, but that's okay. You used pencils that looked like this, kind of, and you went all the way from 9H to 9B. So that was 9H is really, really soft and barely made a mark. And then you went all the way up to 9B, which was really, 9H was really, really hard and barely made a mark. And then 9B was really, really soft and made a really dark mark, right? So that's what we mean by value. It's the dark or the lightness of something. So we're going to do our 2 letters together, but when you do your whole word, I want you to go from either really dark to really light, like in the example, or I want you to go from really light to really dark. It doesn't matter which way you go, okay? Okay, so we have our V and our A. So since it's, as you can see in my example, it's really hard to shade in marker, we're going to use a black colored pencil, and hopefully everyone in the back will be able to see this. If not, you can come up. So I'm going to start from really dark to really light. I'm just going to use my first 2 letters, but I want you to expand this over the whole entire word, okay? So I'm going to go really, really dark. To really, really light. So whenever I go really dark, I push hard, and then whenever I go to light, I make it really, really soft marks, okay? So that's how you would do the value for that. You're going to bubble letters, and then you're going to make the value inside. So for your little image, you can, just color the whole square from dark to light. You can make your own little value scale. If you really want to get fancy, you can use colored pencils and go from light to dark in colored pencils. So we could do blue and go from really dark and push really hard, and then not push so hard, and then go to really light. But I want you to cover most of the square, okay? So I'm going to walk around and just make sure everybody's on the same page and everybody's understanding. If you have any questions, please let me know. And I think tomorrow, don't worry about the principles. Tomorrow we will get to the principles, okay? But today I would really like everyone to finish their elements. So I'm going to circulate. Just raise your hand. Let me know if you have any questions, okay?